Well, here we are again with another set of chess games to review. I haven't done this in a while. It's not that I haven't been playing chess, but I've just, I haven't done much of these in a while. So I want to review a couple games here. One I just played, the one you're looking at right now, a little earlier today while I was at lunch, and I won the game, but the way I won, I want to talk about um, the big mistake that Black makes that costs him dearly in the game. And what I'm going to do here is, of course, you already have the setup here. You can see the setup and everything like that. So Black decides to pull back this bishop. I don't know why. Wasn't wasn't really necessary to do that, but there you go. Um, and my intention was eventually just get rid of this pawn. And so I'm just going to go ahead and go for it because now if black takes right there, I just then take back with the knight. So I've got basically control of the center at this point in the game. Pointless rook move, there you go. And then I make a bit of a mistake because the only thing that was keeping this pawn alive was my queen right there. And then I decide I want to bring up my bishop, but the only real square where I felt like he was really going to do anything was this square right here. But what that does is that actually blocks my queen in. Um, well, it doesn't block my queen, but it blocks my queen from protecting this pawn, and this pawn is now hanging directly in line for attack right here. And there you go. The opponent immediately takes that pawn and has a pretty, nice position right here. In fact, if I'm not careful with my next move, could just really, well, actually no, because in the rook. But anyways, this is potentially a strong move. But look at the bar there. Why did the bar immediately just go? That was a bad idea. Well, when it first happened, I thought I kind of slightly panicked a little bit. I was like, "Oh crud! I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have done that." And under any other circumstance, that probably wasn't a good move right there, blocking my queen from being able to protect a piece that had a substantial position on the board, even if it's just a pawn. But the problem here is, again, and that's what I want to do. This sort of little lesson here: position. Um, because it is true that now my bishop is pinned to my queen. I cannot move the bishop around. Otherwise, if I move the bishop back, I'm going to lose my queen. Of course, you're going to lose your queen. But nevertheless, or right there, But, it looks like it's. I guess all that just basically say this looks like a dangerous move, like a move that's powerful, but it really isn't. Now the problem here is what black has done is just allowed me to do that. I throw away a bishop in order to get your queen while still having my queen. You just lost your queen. And that's an example right here, just showing you a bit of an example of thinking ahead before you make a move like this that looks like a good move. Really, it's not, because then that just happens. So when I saw that, I almost panicked, but I went, oh, boom, right there. I don't care. I'll give up the bishop right there. Now I got his queen. And now it's pretty much just game over at this point. I have an overwhelming advantage. So what I'm going to do now is, because he decided not to protect that rook, I'm going to just slip in right there with my queen, take out the rook, and there you go. Now it's just all falling apart. He's attacking my bishop right there, but I don't really care at this point because now I already see checkmate. I'll set up a rook right here. I could have also just decided to, maybe like castle would have been, done the same thing. It might have been a little bit better, but either way, whatever. Doesn't really matter. It's the same results. I don't really need to move my king too much right now. I mean, it's pretty much just game over. Um, so he takes my bishop. Fine, whatever. It's no big deal. But see, the game's just got me. The game's like, why are you even bothering with it? I mean, you're about to get checkmated. You need to really be defending your king. So now the rook is preventing the king from being able to escape right here. And check again, and then now it's just there's no winning this game. It's just forced checkmate right there, and there you go. There's checkmate. So going back right here, just real quick, looking at this, you got to be careful for a move like this. When you make these kinds of moves, and you look, oh, he just blocked up that pawn from being protected, And there you go. I'm gonna take it because then something like that can happen. I'd like to say that this was a trap, but it wasn't. I wasn't thinking that far ahead. In fact, again, like I said, when that first happened, I panicked. I went, "Oh crud! Dang, I shouldn't have done that." But then I saw this, and I was like, I'll give up the bishop to get his queen. Sure, why not? So there you go with that one. All right, so this one right here, this one played a while ago, so I don't remember exactly what everybody was thinking when we were making our moves. So I'll just go through the opening a little bit here. He starts with a queen's pawn opening. That's one of my favorite openings because just interesting things happen all the time. Almost all the time I do that. Then he brings his queen out. I thought that's not the best thing to do. But okay, it's Bruce. I'm playing Bruce here, by the way. But all right. So this move right here, I'm not totally. Maybe it's just me and my opening things. But whatever. I'm just not. Maybe I'm not just very adept. I've always had struggles with the openings and stuff like that. But there you go. But all right. So he brings out his bishop. He's pinning my knight to my queen. Sorry, excuse me. Pinning my knight to my queen. So that kind of puts some pressure on me. As you can tell, I'm losing just very slightly, but I'm slightly down in position. So I decided to go ahead and counter that because I don't want to have a pinned knight right there. You go with that. He moves his knight forward, and game doesn't like that too much. And one of the reasons why the game doesn't like that is because this knight was protecting that bishop right there. He's keeping that bishop alive, and he decides to just go ahead and hang the bishop. That was not a good move because now there you go, and I'm going to take that bishop, and now I got a strong positioning right here with this bishop. So not the best move. And then he moves his queen off right here, which is another odd move. Again, I'm not totally sure what that's doing. I mean, she's attacking my knight right there, who's hanging. So there's that. I decided to protect the knight. Probably would have been better. I should have just gone. I mean, I was thinking maybe I could have just gone like this, and then whatever. But trading knights or whatever. But I decided to protect the knight, and he slides his queen over just a little bit to look down right there, and I realized that's not good. That's troublesome because it's being protected right there. Oops. Yeah. So there you go. And this is an example right here. The move I make here is an example of and this is I'm going to show you this in the next game here, because this is one of the things that Bruce kind of struggles with is just having an awareness of your opponent, what your opponent is doing. There's just not a ton right now for him in thinking about that stuff. I realize that this right here is that's checkmate in like one move. So if I just right there, see how that quickly just goes, boom, and then you're checkmated. See the number sign right there that indicates checkmate. So I see that and I go, yikes! And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a defensive move by pushing up the pawn right here to it's basically attacking the knight, but it's also keeping the queen from coming down right here because the queen would have to get through this, and she's going to get smacked before she does. I'd probably take it with the queen and my queen and stuff, and then just threaten the same thing on the other side. It's not checkmate. Well, actually, no, it's not checkmate. It would force the king right here. But anyways, I digress. So I managed to escape checkmate. But again, the reason why I escaped checkmate is because I'm paying attention to my opponent, his moves, and his positioning on the board. So there you go. I lose my knight right there. Okay, whatever. We got some trading going on here. I decided to castle. I don't really know what else to do at this point. So I'm going to go ahead and start bringing in my knight here. He brings out his bishop right there, and the game doesn't like that. Now, so here's what I think is one of the reasons why the game doesn't really like this move too much, is because I see a nasty fork right there between these pieces like this. Just like that. That's what I'm looking at when he moves out his bishop right there. So I go for the fork thinking, if he attacks right here, I go ahead and take back, and then he's going to have to retreat his queen. That's basically my idea. If he takes with the knight, you take right there. If he doesn't take with the knight and he decides to move his queen, I'm just going to take the bishop. So really this fork, I think that's one of the reasons why the game doesn't really like this move too much. is because of that fork. But a game gives him some favor again. I thought the fork was a nice move. I liked it, but whatever. Stockfish is hard to please. Uh, that's what I had in mind. But Bruce does that, which loses his queen. He doesn't really seem to realize she's under attack. Because if he doesn't move the queen and he maybe moves the bishop, I'm gonna take the queen. So that's really like a no-brainer. So I think Bruce kind of was like dope for that one. I think my next move should have just gone ahead and just taken that knight. I, yeah, and really when you think about it, my not taking that knight is what costs me the game ultimately in this whole thing. So, because now the knight gets away, we got this right here, blah blah blah. I got some weird moves. I did that, and I knew I was gonna get checked. So there you go. I'm gonna block the check. And again, I'm thinking in hindsight, should have just gone ahead and taken this because it would have saved me a heartache. But I saw that and I went, not sure what Bruce is thinking here. Not a great move, but the game doesn't like my move too much either. I mean, he just hangs a rook right there, and now it gives my queen free reign over here. I mean, and I didn't, and I knew that was coming too. As soon as I decided to leave that bishop he was hanging, I'm gonna get checked, but it's all right. My king can just escape right over here. I should have. I think maybe I should have just gone right there. I don't know. The reason why I didn't ultimately because I was afraid of this, but queen could have just Well, looking back in hindsight, there's a lot of things I could have done much better. And I should have just gone right back right here. I should have just kicked my king back, but I ended up putting him in further danger. All right, so, and then of course the other thing I could have thought about is what would it, let's say let's go back here. We get checked. How does the game treat this right here? And then if boom, check, boom. You take my rook, but that would be a really nasty loss of material for Bruce at that point. So that probably would have been better for me to do in the long run. So, but it is what it is. Lessons always to be learned. And I had to. I had no way. I mean, there's nothing for my. I mean, I could have just gone right here, I guess, taken the pawn right here. Then I would lose a rook right there. And again, in hindsight, I think maybe that would have been better because I'm going to lose a rook anyway. It would have been more interesting if Bruce took with the pawn instead, because then the pawn's one square away from promoting. But there it is. So, but I didn't do this move right here. I withheld this move because I wanted this move I did right here, this check, because I wanted to see if Bruce would see it. I wanted to see if Bruce would recognize the danger of this right here, the queen coming up to check the king, forcing the king to move, and then you lose your last rook. I wanted to see if he would see it, but he doesn't see it, so I just decided to go, okay, well, I'm doing this because I'm trying to make Bruce a better player. And by having him see where he screws up and he misses things. So there's that. But the funny and the hilarious thing about this game is I lose the game. Remember, I lose the game. And look at what it just did there. It just immediately went back in the favor of white. And look at this. I had mate in 5. I mean, it would have been better if I just continued to check like this, and just keep the checks going, basically. Boom, maybe something like that, and whatever. But I made the fatal mistake of thinking my king was actually fairly safe, and he wasn't. And after I made this move, I was looking around here, and I thought, oh, crud. Oh, I can get checkmated here. And I was going to resign if, I told myself, okay, Bruce probably doesn't see it. But I know what he's going to do anyway. He's going to check. He wants to check. Because Bruce took that pawn right there. I know why he took it, because he wants to promote. He wants to get a queen. Because Another one thing that Bruce struggles with is how to win a game without a queen. And so he's like, I just don't know what else to do at this point except just try to get my queen back. And so that's what he's going to do. And so when he checked me here, there was nowhere else for my king to go. He can't go here because the knight's guarding that. Literally the only safe square is this square right here. But the problem is once he moves up, I'm now just checkmated because the knight is guarding this, his king is guarding that, the pawn here is guarding that, the knight is also guarding this, the bishop is attacking all of that, which checkmates my king. And so I'm forced in a spot where the next move is just utterly checkmate. Now, when this knight move came, I was hoping Bruce didn't see it because let's say Bruce doesn't see it. Let's say Bruce does this, then he's going to get checkmated in one move. That's the hilarious part, is if Bruce didn't see it, if he didn't see it, I had one move before he was going to get checkmated, but and I don't think he saw it. I think he was just trying to get his knight out of the way, and he sort of told me this. He was just trying to get his knight out of the way so he can move his pawn down here. When he made that move, I was about to resign, but then I thought, you know what? I'm going to give Bruce the satisfaction of checkmating me without a queen. The hilarious part is Bruce didn't even realize he did it. He checkmated me by accident. He wasn't even trying to checkmate me. He was just trying to get a queen back. Boom, there you go, checkmate. And here you have a great example of combining pieces to do a checkmate. So this is a great study for Bruce to learn like how you can checkmate without a queen. You don't need the queen necessarily to do a checkmate. It just takes it really is, it's simple, but it's not simple at the same time. It really is a matter of thinking ahead, looking ahead at your in moves. Every single move, yes, like nothing plays out exactly the way you thought it was going to play out, but you just have to learn to adapt. And go, oh, I didn't see that move. Okay, well then how do I adjust and prepare for the next set of moves and blah 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 blah, things like that. A great thing to do for Bruce that I've been doing, like one of my little secrets, I've been doing the puzzles. There's these you can go over here. Well, you can't see it on the screen right now, but you can look on the app and you can go to puzzles. Just play some puzzles. If you're not subscribed, if you're not like actually paying for a subscription right now, for chess.com, you can only play like 3 puzzles in a day. I'm paying for it right now, so I find the money's worth it. I'm learning a lot, and I have unlimited puzzles that I can play. I play puzzles all the time. And what playing puzzles do, it seems silly and a waste of time. It's actually not. Playing puzzles has really taught me how to think about the best move for each situation. It trains my brain to think about how to what is the best move for you, that kind of stuff like that. So those are good things for Bruce to do. But as great, just need to say it here real quick, as great as this is, as satisfying as that probably is, you don't want to be relying on checkmates by accident. You want to be actually checkmating, like what you're doing. You actually know what you're doing. Like, okay, this is what I want to do here. So it's a great victory, but you want to get to a point where you're like, I did that checkmate on purpose. Like that was an intentional checkmate. And one of the reasons why I typically win games, I'm not trying to brag, but the one reason why I typically win the games here is because I'm thinking those several moves ahead. And here's another example of this. I won this game playing as whites, started with this opening. I want to just talk real quick here. I learned this the hard way. When white moves out a pawn, attacking with a knight right here, even though the game gives you a little bit of, it doesn't really punish you too much for that, I've learned is a bad idea, because all white has to do is that. Forces the knight to move, but then all I got to do is this. And the knight's forced to move again, and then I attack the knight again with the bishop. This is a real simple rule of chess. Knights versus pawns in the center are going to lose. They're really just going to lose. It's just kind of the way it is. but now Bruce is in a. I would say, even I know Stockfish has not punished him a lot yet. I would say Bruce is in a tough situation right now. I got hanging pieces all over the place. Yeah, Bishop and this pawn are, well, yeah, he's the only one hanging actually. But I got nothing attacking any of my pieces, and I'm developing my pieces at the same time I'm attacking that knight. Now all Bruce has wasted the first 4 moves just having to move this knight because he's trying not to lose the knight. He's already kind of in a panic mode. And he's under attack again. Meanwhile, I'm developing pieces every single move. So finally, Bruce decides to slow it down and decides a nice subtle little move to defend the knight, and which is a good move because if Bruce decided, I mean, there's really nowhere else for that knight to go that would have been safe other than maybe like right there. Otherwise, he was doomed. No matter where he went. Well, he can also go right there and he'd be fine. But these 2 squares, I mean, what's the knight doing over here? The knight really has no business being over in those squares. All right, so I decided I'm just going to go ahead and continue to develop. I'm not doing anything crazy fancy right now. And then Bruce, I think my gander here, because this move does almost, not even almost, it really doesn't do anything. It's really a pointless move. My gander here is that Bruce may have been intending to move that one and mistakenly moved that one. That's the only thing I can think of to rationale for that. But I decided to go ahead and take advantage of the wasted move and attack the knight, not with my bishop, because I don't want to like boom and then boom. That's a terrible way to lose a bishop. So I'm going to go ahead and attack the knight with my own pawn. And Bruce moves this pawn up, and I see what's going to happen here. And again, so this is thinking ahead. I know what's going to happen here. Once he made that move, I knew that eventually our queens are going to be squaring at each other because I'm going to take, he's going to take, or he's going to take right there, one of the two. And that's what happens. He takes the pawn right there. I would have gone ahead and, I guess it doesn't really matter. But now the queens are staring at each other. Now at this point, I have a choice. I can decide we can get the queens off the board immediately right now. I can just get them off the board. I know that I tend to have an advantage when the queens are off the board because again, I'm just saying. I'm just saying. It's just kind of the way it is. I don't want it to be that way. I'd like to be like, ooh, man, even though Bruce's queen's off the board, that doesn't mean he's not a threat. But in many ways, it's just kind of the way it is. But I decide, you know what? I've done that a couple times. I'm kind of bored of that. So I'm going to protect my queen. I'm not going to allow the queens to come off the board. So there you go, the bishop right there. But the bishop also does another thing too. It's also going to prevent, once I eventually move this knight out, it prevents him from attacking the knight because I can just take. And then the queens are staring at each other again. And at that point, I may just go ahead and go, whatever. I can just go ahead. It is what it is. Dang it, go away. So he moves up and attacks the pawn right there. He doesn't want to attack with the bishop because he's just going to lose the bishop. Okay, that's fine. I'm going to now attack this pawn right here. I'm going to go ahead and then my knight's going to have a nice little outpost right there. That's pretty sweet spots. And there's also, do something right there if I wanted to. Whatever. He goes ahead and takes, and that's a bold move right there. I'm going to go ahead and just take back. And after that, Bruce castles. All right, so this is where the problems really happened for Black. And now you notice the game now, even though he castles, the game now gives me a 2.87 advantage. Why is that? Why is that? Because castling is a great way to defend your king. It's a great way to protect your king. Generally, yes. But this is the thing. This is the nuances with chess. Chess is a game that has tons and tons of nuances. It's a thinker's game. And that's what I love about it, by the way. If you're Black, you need to think about it. I wonder if I can let me just flip the board here. If you're Black, before you castle, you got to ask yourself the question, is castling right now a good idea for me? Given the situation of the board. So you got a knight right here who's got an outpost. He's unthreatened right now. Nothing is attacking that knight. I got a bishop staring down at that bishop. I got another bishop staring down over here. That kind of stuff. And I also got a queen that can just come out here and has nothing contesting her on either of these squares. So she can come down right here and then basically can stare down all of this right there. So let me just, again, just point this out. Knight with an outpost right here. Bishop staring down this. Another bishop staring down that. Queen looking up right here. Or maybe right there, where she can do this or this. And is staring down at all of that right there in either of these positions. Look at where all these arrows are going. It's a really I mean, the attack, my attack is clearly, if I'm going to attack in anything, even if he doesn't castle, even if his king's over here, my attack is coming down this way. I'm going to just totally destroy the king side of the board with the way my pieces are formed. So if you're black, you need to think about this. You need to think, is it a good idea for me to castle knowing that because when you castle a king, it protects your king. Yes, it's a defensive move. But the problem, the thing about castling and the danger of castling is it also puts your king in a static situation where if he has to move, he can't move. He's stuck. He's stuck here. That's the whole point of the castle. And so if he starts coming under a severe attack, you're in trouble. You're in a lot of trouble. And so, so there you go. That's something you always have to think about before you castle. I decided to castle back. I just figured, well, let's just see what happens here. Let's just keep going. You know, let's just play. But again, so what I do next is I do it sort of to punish Bruce, but to show him, like, you got to be a little bit more careful and a little bit more thoughtful when you make certain moves, like castling. And that's the problem here that he makes. This was a bold move. It's, at this point in the game, not a great move for black because it does just go ahead and loses your bishop. But what you do at the same time, you do something. You do cause my castle structure to immediately break apart. So you could, like, queen right here. I don't know. Queen right here, and then right there, and she's staring down at that check. But right now, at this point in the game, if you're black, you've got to start getting, because you've castled, all right, you've done it. There's no taking that move back. You got to start getting these pieces over here. All the pieces you have over here, you've got to start getting them into the game because you're in a tough situation. But the problem here is, of course, this knight is having a nice, powerful outpost right here. And I think that's one of the reasons why Bruce attacks the knight first, because Bruce wants to bring his knight out right now, but he knows if he does that, I can just quickly take, and now I'm forcing his queen to move. So he decides to attack my knight with this pawn right here. Problem here is that this sabotages his own castle structure. The whole point of putting a king in a castle is to not move this. If anything, move something like that. That's another defensive move that you can do with a castle. But he attacks the knight right here. These are just moves that you just gotta. These are what you call the one movers. This is just, and in a certain sense, Bruce is thinking a little bit ahead in that sense that he wants to move this out, so he's got to get rid of the knight here first because he knows the knight will just take as soon as he moves his knight out, either here or right there. He'll just lose the knight. Or, I mean, if you're gonna move the knight out, right there would be good because he's guarded. Then I'm gonna think twice before I do something like this. So that would have been better than what he does here, because all this is thinking about is just moving this knight out. But what it's not thinking about is as soon as you take that knight, my rook's staring down this. I'm just gonna move. I can also just move my queen right here, and then as soon as you take, I'm gonna move my queen right here, and then that's checkmate right there, because the king. I'll get to that. I'm getting ahead of myself. But that's what I decided to do. I decided to go ahead and move my queen out because I know what he wants to do. He wants to take that knight. There's no other reason why you'd move that pawn up. And a lot of these moves are just incredibly, they're just really, really predictable. I'm sorry, but that's just kind of the way it is. I see what's happening. I know exactly what I'm going to do as a response. I'm going to move that queen out, and then I'm going to slide her over right here, and then go for the checkmate. So Bruce does that, slide the queen over like that. The game actually thought that this was a missed opportunity because right here the queen is actually staring down at that rook to take the rook. I'm I'm like, why would I do that? If I can win the game right now, I can win the game right now. Why would I do that? Plus, also, if you just take someone's pieces just to take the pieces, it's kind of an insult, and so I'm not trying to do that. I know you might think, well, you just decided to beat Bruce brutally in 15 moves. How are you not insulting him? Well, I don't think I am. But I'm trying to help Bruce see and think about what your opponent is doing, and then act accordingly. See, and this is how I know that that's the reason why Bruce wanted to take that knight out, so that he can get this knight into the game. But the simple problem here is now you're just not thinking about what your opponent is doing. You're just, and I know this. I've done this before too. I've done this so many times. It's taken a lot for me to learn my lesson, that I have to be more aware of what my opponent is doing, and his position on the board. You're just really never going to win very much at all unless you start doing that kind of stuff. Unless you start thinking about, what's he doing right now? Why is he moving his queen out like that? What's he doing? What's his plan here? And then when you're going to castle, you got to think about, there's that right there. Now there's that, and now because you've moved this pawn out of the way, this rook prevents the king from escape as soon as my queen checks, and my queen is guarded by the bishop. It is simply checkmate. And so these are things you just have to learn to think about these things. I'm not a professional chess player, by the way, at all. I am still pretty much a beginner, but I just do this because I'm just trying to. I do just so we learn things. We learn how to, like, oh, what did I do wrong? How do I get better at this? How do I fix my mistakes? Where's my weaknesses at? Things like that. Just thinking about those kinds of things. So there you go. Couple chess games. 30 minutes. That's reasonable enough. All right, guys. I will talk to you all later.